The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Mr. Secretary, if you could please call the roll.
Senator Daley,
Here.
Senator Ellison, Senator Krasner, Senator Neal, Senator Orenshaw, Senator Rogich, Chair Flores.
Present. Please let the record reflect we have 5 members present. We do have a quorum. Please mark Senator Orenshaw and Senator Neal as absent excused. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Senate Committee on Government Affairs. It's great to see a full house. I see a lot of students. Welcome to your committee. We have 3 items on the agenda, but before we do that, I kind of want to just give everybody a lay of the land for the remainder of the week, mostly so you can plan accordingly, particularly those of you who have families. We will be having, as we're moving into the next couple of weeks, we're going to probably almost always have a long Monday, but for sure always a long Wednesday, in the interest of trying to avoid us having to meet on Fridays to accommodate myself and accommodate Senator Ellison, who has to do long drives, and for those of you who have to catch flights and just go hang out with your families on Fridays. So the intent is for us not to meet this Friday, but again, the only way we can do that is by meeting longer on Mondays and Wednesdays. It's one or the other, and I think that's the better of the compromises. So please plan accordingly. I want to remind everybody that we do work off of our laptops. Please don't take that as a sign of disrespect as we're looking down. As you see, that we have some members missing. People are running in and out, presenting bills, and or stuck in meetings. Please know that they wanted to be here, just for whatever reasons can't. I want to remind everybody to please sign in if you haven't done so. For those of you who will be testifying today, please make sure that you allow our committee manager to have your business card and or just your information. For minute purposes, sometimes we need to contact you at later dates, so that's the reason we need that. Please state your name for the record of those of you who will be testifying after every single question to make it easy for our staff to transcribe everything that's being said in this committee room. There is an additional item on the agenda that we would like to include. If you look at the first revised agenda, at the very bottom, we do put possible work session. We will be work sessioning one item at a later time today. It was a committee bill presented by our very own Senator Krasner, and we intend to move that bill today on recognizing the Holocaust. With that, I will take the agenda as it appears, the items on the agenda as they appear. First, starting off with Senate Bill 15. Good afternoon, welcome. And I do want to let folk know, those of you who are hoping to join us, that there is an overflow room. It's 2144. If you're following along on your phone and you're in the building and you'd like to join us, please make your way to room 2144. Good afternoon, welcome, whenever you're ready.
Hello, committee, Chair Flores, members of the committee. My name is Ashley Kennedy, representing Clark County, here to represent Senate Bill 15. My last name is spelled Kennedy. Senate Bill 15 aims to modernize and streamline several administrative processes related to county operations. I will walk through the sections of the bill and kind of the reasons why we are requesting these changes. So starting with sections 1 through 3, this is related to the Debt Management Commission. The Debt Management Commission consists of representatives from local governing bodies and 2 public members. This commission is responsible for reviewing and approving proposals related to general obligation debt and special elective tax levies for entities under its jurisdiction. Under current law, the commission must meet every February to select a chair and vice chair, hold an annual meeting in August, and if the county population exceeds 7,000, as in Clark County, must meet monthly. Additionally, by August 1st of each year, local governing bodies must submit an annual report detailing existing and future debts, a debt management policy, and a 5-year capital improvement plan. Clark County's Debt Management Commission receives reports from 24 entities. Staff must review, process, and prepare all 24 reports for an August meeting. While we are not proposing to remove the annual meeting requirement, we are seeking some flexibility in its scheduling by removing the mandate that it must take place in August. This change will significantly ease the burden on staff without compromising oversight. Now going to sections 4 through 6, this is related to the county treasurer's office hours. We are aiming to address a discrepancy in the statutory definition of the county treasurer's office hours. Currently, state law defines the close of business as 5 p.m., yet in Clark County, our office is open till 5:30. This inconsistency can create some confusion, particularly for constituents. This 5 p.m. deadline is really important for the purposes of shoring up delinquent taxes. And so if you Google Clark County and see we're open till 5:30 and show up at 5:15, state law says we can't, you've missed the deadline. And also in conferring with other counties, most counties are open till 5 p.m. We're the only county that's open till 5:30. So this wouldn't, there's no county that's open earlier. We're not, stays open earlier. By amending the statute, we provide flexibility for all counties to define their business hours appropriately. The next one is related to Clark County School District, which is in Section 7. Section 7 removes the requirement for the school district to report quarterly to the Board of County Commissioners. Under current law, CCSD must submit these reports in person with their content directed by CCSD policy. This reporting requirement was implemented back in 2017 to provide the board with updates on CCSD's reorganization into local school precincts. However, since that time, Clark County now has an appointed school trustee who has joined the CCSD Board of Trustees, giving us direct insight into district matters. And as a result, this quarterly report no longer serves its intended purposes from the perspective of Clark County. To be clear, we're not proposing that the reporting requirement be removed for any other jurisdiction, just for Clark County. And then Section 8 relates to franchise agreement notices. This will modernize how we notify the public about franchise agreements. Currently, before voting on a franchise application, the county commission must publish a notice in a newspaper and physically post notices in public places within unincorporated towns. With 8 urban and 11 rural towns, Clark County can be required to post notices at up to 57 locations if a franchise applicant is going to impact the entire county, impact service countywide. This posting requirement dates back to 1915, a time when physical postings were essential for public awareness. In today's digital age, most residents learn about county meetings and issues online, not from physical postings. In fact, a few legislative sessions ago, the open meeting law was updated to remove similar outdated requirements for county meeting agendas. We now post agendas in one physical location, such as our county building, and online. Our request here is similar. We would still publish a franchise notice in newspapers of circulation, and if the county newspaper does not exist, we would follow existing law and physically post notices in unincorporated towns. This update maintains transparency while eliminating an outdated and inefficient requirement. So that is the gist of the bill. In summary, it makes some practical updates that improve efficiency while maintaining transparency, and the changes will help the county better serve the public, reduce unnecessary administrative burdens, and align our processes with modern realities. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for walking us through the bill. At this time, we'll open it up for questions. Senator Ellison, followed by Senator Krasner.
Thank you very much. And when I went through the bill, one of the questions I had was Section 8. And is this still going to be posted with, it's still going to be posted in libraries and in city places like this?
So Ashley Kennedy, for the record, representing Clark County. That's currently how the process is. So right now, we post in the newspaper for a newspaper of circulation, and then we post where the franchise agreement in the impacted area. So for us, if it's a franchise agreement that's going to impact all of Clark County, then that means we would be posting in 57 different locations, and that can vary. We sometimes often use libraries or recreational facilities. And so what this bill intends to do is that rather than posting in all of those locations, we would post in the newspaper that we do, and then any franchise agreement has to go to our board for to review and then a hearing. And so any notices related to that will also be agendized and posted physically at the Clark County Government Center and then also online.
And the reason I'm asking this is because a lot of the seniors, they don't have a computer and they might not be able to get a paper or whatever. That's why we always kept it the way it was, is to make sure that they still had access to knowing that this was going to affect their life. So I think that's pretty serious. We try to do everything we can to make sure that it is posted within the city boundaries or where they can see them. But if it's a whole county thing, I can understand, they gotta do it, but I know the free press or the press is one of the biggest expenses, but it still gets out to a lot of people.
Ashley Kennedy for the record. And I definitely understand as far as for anyone that does not have a computer and how they get notified. I would say in our county buildings, when you first walk in is where we have all of our postings. And that's generally where if someone did not have access to a computer would be a perfect place to find things because everything is posted there. Our county facility is large where people have to, may get their passport done, have to file their, pay their taxes, make an appointment with the assessor. There's so many different services that we provide at our county building, so posting it there would be a great way to reach people that is in the general area of,
Pay taxes, they avoid that place.
Senator Krasner, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I thank you for your presentation. I had some similar concerns, and I appreciate you came to my office. And a lot of times, senior citizens who don't have access to the internet count on the posting in the newspaper, which I know you said you'll still do, but then you told me that there were 53 other locations where you're currently posting these notices now, and you're going to take that down to just one. And I'm just wondering about that. Are there some places that are more popular with people that you might want to consider adding back in, because taking it from 53 down to one is a lot of places where the notice will no longer be posted. And I don't know if you know which ones are more popular. A lot of people go to X location, the city council building or the county commission building, and some they might not miss. I'm just, that's my first concern, is taking it from 53 down to one. I'm wondering if maybe we could add a few more instead of just one. So your thoughts on that, first of all.
thank you, Ashley Kennedy, for the record. Senator, I'm happy to work with you on what would be feasible. In talking with, for example, our business license department, who's responsible for posting, in particular for franchise agreements, they had indicated that, they have used places like a community center, a fire station, parks, even a retail store to help for these notices. So I'm happy to work with you on something that could be.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Just trying to make sure that people do actually get that notice if they don't have access to a computer. Thank you. And then, Chair, if I may, one more question.
Please.
In sections 4, 5, and 6 of the bill, we have section 4, subsection 2D, section 5, subsection 3, and section 6, subsection 6, where you are changing it to, instead of not later than 5 PM, you're changing it to the close of business day of the county person, whether it's the treasurer or whoever. And I know you said in Clark County, you guys close at 5:30, which I appreciate. However, we have 17 counties in Nevada, and so I want to make sure that there's another county that's not closing at, say, 12 that day or 2 PM that day. And then people who think they have a few more hours to get down there and pay that bill to keep their house, don't, because that county decided on that day in their office they were closing at 12. So can you help me with that, please?
Of course, Ashley Kennedy for the record. So we did pool all of the treasurer's hours for each of the counties, with the exception of Eureka, because I couldn't find the information ahead of the hearing. But every county, with the exclusion of Clark County, is open till 5 PM, and Clark County is open till 5:30 PM. So there isn't a county that it has earlier, that is closing before 5 PM.
So what are your thoughts on 5 PM or close of business day, whichever is later? I'm concerned just about our citizens, just making sure that they can get down there if they need to, because 5 PM or close of business day, whichever is later, would cover both.
Ashley Kennedy for the record, and I would be open to that as well.
Thank you, I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Senator Daley, please. All of Senator Daley's questions were addressed. And Senator Rogich saying we're good to go. Thank you for the presentation. I'd like to invite you to sit back, and at this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 15, either in Carson City or Las Vegas. I see nobody in Las Vegas, but I do see some folk here in Carson City coming forward. Good afternoon, welcome. Whenever you're ready, and I do want to remind folk that if you will be testifying in support or opposition or neutral, that you please limit your testimony to 2 minutes. Please continue.
For the record, Andrew Razor, RASOR. I'm the president of the Association of County Treasurers of Nevada and also the treasurer for Carson City, Nevada. And the Association of County Treasurers of Nevada is in support of SB 15. And we thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Nick Schneider, Director of Government Affairs for the Vegas Chamber. We are also in support of SB 15, as it provides a little bit of extra flexibility as far as paying the county treasurer, especially in Clark County, which allows folks to pay outside of your common business hours at standard 9 to 5. So thank you so much for your consideration.
And thank you for joining us. Anybody else in support of Senate Bill 15? Seeing none, BPS, is there anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 15, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of SB 15, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers wishing to participate at this time.
Thank you. BPS will stay on the phone. Anybody wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 15 over the phone?
If you would like to provide testimony in opposition of SB 15, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 051, please press star 6 to unmute yourself. Thank you. Please continue.
Okay. No one is going to any of these government locations to look to see what you guys are
And
doing.
sir, I apologize for
Seniors,
interrupting
especially.
you. I think you started speaking before we could hear you on our end. If I could ask that you please state your name for the
Okay.
record and then start from the very beginning.
Barry Johnston. And no one's going to any of these government locations to look at what's going on, the libraries and whatnot, especially seniors, because seniors can, most of them can have a hard time getting out of the house and moving around. So I have a major issue with just the way that this is posted. But if we're going to be real about this, we need to have a serious conversation about property tax and abolishing property tax, because if we don't, more families will lose their home, more seniors will be thrown into financial ruin, and the American dream will continue slipping away. This bill is not just bad policy, it's legalized theft. Taxation, theft, the government does not create wealth, it takes wealth. We need to use property tax as a last resort. I mean, this is like the last resort of tyrants trying to seize private property. All this is doing is calling debt management something that's different than what it is. It's really stealing from people their entire dreams. It's a financial weapon aimed at the very people who built this country. The Nevada Legislature has decided that instead of cutting wasteful spending, eliminating useful programs, and reducing bureaucratic waste, it's just easier to steal from us. You know, it's not, you spendaholics need to get control of what you're doing. And this entire conversation is just absurd. You guys are arguing about whether or not you're going to put up a posting in a library. Nobody pays attention to any of that stuff. And you're stealing people's homes. Like, this makes it easier to steal from us. And none of you seem to be concerned about that, which just is another concern about how you're overtaxing us, you keep taking from us, and you're making the most vulnerable people in our community who have been hit hardest by the economy, you're making it impossible. Some of these people's homes were purchased a long time ago, and their property tax is now more than what they paid their mortgage payments. And none of you are sitting here saying, hey, how are we going to stop stealing from people, and let's worry about taxing people on consumption and something that we can see easier.
And Mr.
Because by
Johnson,
using property tax,
Mr. Johnson, we have hit the 2-minute mark. I gave you an additional 20 seconds. If you could just do your closing remarks, and then if there's anything in writing you would like to submit to the committee, we'll make sure that the committee secretary uploads it so that all members can see it as an exhibit.
if you don't stop this now, what comes next? More fees, more fines, more confiscation, sending more people to our homes with guns. You know, the government is never satisfied. They're always going to come for more. This is the battle we cannot afford to lose. We have to kill the bill altogether and just remove property tax and figure out another way.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you, Mr. Johnson. BPS, we'd like for anybody else wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 15 to please join us over the phone.
If you would like to testify in opposition of SB 15, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no more callers wishing to participate at this time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to testify in opposition either in Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, we'll move to the neutral position for Senate Bill 15. Anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position, Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
If you would like to testify neutral on SB 15, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers wishing to participate at this time.
Thank you. Any closing remarks? Understood. Thank you for the presentation. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 15. And next, I'd like to invite those here to present Senate Bill 28. Good afternoon. Welcome. Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the committee. My name is Randy Robinson, Director of Government Affairs for the City of Las Vegas. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present to you Senate Bill 28, which is one of the bills sponsored or requested by the City of Las Vegas. I'm joined at the table today by two subject matter experts. So to my immediate left is our Planning Director, Seth Floyd, and at the far left is Mr. Jacob Snow. Some of you may remember him as General Manager of the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada for many, many, many years. He followed that up with a few years as a city manager in Henderson. He's uniquely qualified to talk about the issues that Senate Bill 28 speaks to. So we've asked him to join us today. And that will do it for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Randy. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. Seth Floyd, Director of Community Development for the City of Las Vegas. As many of you all know, Southern Nevada has been growing at a pretty rapid pace, really for the last 50 plus years. And we are now the 23rd largest city in the country. And for most of that 50 years, a lot of that growth that we've seen has been in single-family residential development out in what you would think of as the suburbs. But we're now reaching a point where we are almost out of that vacant developable land, and we are looking at a much more urban future and a different pattern. We recently adopted a new master plan that looks out to 2050, and what we are expecting is that for the next 25 years, much of that development will consist of infill and redevelopment within existing neighborhoods. That does present a lot of opportunities, but it also presents some challenges. And as you've probably seen in the newspaper, we are also experiencing a pretty acute increase in housing prices and a need for housing at all income levels. So SB 28 is one of our tools that we are proposing that would give us some more options for how we would address some of those issues. And very high level, it does two things. First, it allows the city to use one of the incentives that the legislature authorizes us to use, which is a building permit fee waiver for affordable housing, but we would like to raise the AMI for those waivers from 60%, which is in current statute, to 120% of area median income. And then second, it would expand the city's ability to use a financing tool that's already in statute, known as tax increment financing, for certain types of development, specifically housing and transit. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Snow to go through the bill.
Good afternoon. For the record, Jacob Snow. I work now for a firm, a civil engineering infrastructure firm called Atkins Realis in Henderson, Nevada. And it's good to be back in the legislature. It's been a while. Some of you I remember and recognize, and I believe I brought a curse with me because I have my little note here on the computer to go to the presentation. It says to press Control plus L to present. And I touched it, and I cannot see the presentation on my laptop, and I don't believe anyone else can see it. And the nice gentleman who was here to set this up has left the building. So I'd rather not ad lib. Is there anyone that can help with the frozen computer possibly?
No worries. I think what we can do is take a brief recess and allow for someone from IT to come in and resolve that issue. That way we don't put you on the spot without, you worked so hard on the presentation.
Really did. And I'm really excited for you to see it.
We are in recess. See if we can get somebody from IT. Should be easy.
I just got to remember the fire marshal, SB 25 in the back.
Nothing comes up.
Okay.
In opposition or concerns, so I just wanted to pass it along. They just sent it over to me and
Okay.
letting me know.
And then he's gonna send that. All right, the Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come back to order. And we had a brief delay for purposes of IT helping us out with a couple of minor things here with the presentation. Looks like the slide is up and everybody should be able to see it whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Jacob Snow. Senate Bill 28 has the ability to solve a number of the problems that the city of Las Vegas and other municipalities in the state face. I think many of you read the newspaper. This is a recent article from the Las Vegas Review-Journal talking about the challenges of housing affordability, especially in Las Vegas right now. And with the recent fires in Southern California, we know we're going to see a lot more additional pressure on housing values going up. Another recent article, also from the Review-Journal, saying that Nevada is now the most expensive state to own a vehicle. Housing affordability and transportation affordability is becoming a bigger challenge for us. But not only that, Mr. Floyd is a planner, I'm also a planner, and one of the biggest challenges we have is trying to build places that improve the quality of life and improve the quality of development for our residents. And this bill, SB 28, has elements that will solve all three of those problems, or help us solve those problems, because they allow for zones where we can make special investments to improve the quality of life and solve and work on solving some of our transportation and housing affordability problems. The real key to that is what I'm going to talk about next, and that is transit-oriented development. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that term. You can see on the screen some of the key aspects of it, and I'm going to show you what transit-oriented development is on these pictures rather than really talk about it in detail. I think that'll make it easier. You can see on this picture a train. That's a light rail line in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and right next to it is an affordable housing complex that's under construction right next to the transit station. So that's a big key for what transit-oriented development is. Now, several cities and states around our country use this tool to create more affordable housing and more affordable transportation and create better communities. Here's a city, Charlotte, North Carolina. You can see the transit is there on the left. That's the transit station, a light rail station. You can see the development there on the right, affordable housing. And with the bottom, there is mixed use, a restaurant, combining retail opportunities as well as residential opportunities, all in the same area, but going vertical instead of spreading out. And that concentration of development is what's going to enable us to help pay for some of these investments that I'll talk about in a moment. The most important aspect of good transit-oriented development is what you see here. Fast, frequent, high-quality transit. And notice there are no cars around this streetcar. That's because it has a dedicated right-of-way. And transit is most effective when you can get to a place faster in a transit vehicle than you can with a car. And if you create a dedicated right-of-way for the transit that the cars cannot go in, that's a way to speed up the transit to make it more competitive with the automobile and more attractive for people to take an alternative to driving. That's the most important aspect of it. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's a bus or whether it's a train. Here you see a rapid transit high-capacity vehicle in Indianapolis, Indiana, that has been built in its own dedicated right-of-way right next to a brand-new affordable housing development. Now, it's not transit-oriented development if the development is not close to the transit. But when the development is close to the transit, albeit right next door, that makes transit oftentimes the preferred choice because it is so easily accessible and convenient. Here you see a transit-oriented development in Los Angeles, California. Typically what we want and what we see in a transit-oriented development is compact, medium to high density development. There are literally, as part of this transit station in Del Mar, California, hundreds of residential units and a few dozen commercial units all right next to the transit. Keep in mind, this is like building a new road to someone's property. You build a new road to someone's property, all of a sudden there is a demand for development, or there can be, and it results in a significant value to private property. And we do that all the time. Sometimes we don't capture the value appropriately. But all these additional residential units and commercial units, we're talking about a lot of economic activity. This is an economic development bill. It's also a neighborhood revitalization bill, creating a lot of economic activity in these transit corridors. Another key component of good transit-oriented development is a pedestrian-friendly design. You've got to make it safe and convenient for people to walk to and from the transit. So investing in streets and sidewalks is an investment in safety, as well as an investment in mobility, as well as an economic investment. Here you see a picture of a streetcar in Cincinnati, Ohio. One of the most important aspects of good transit-oriented development is a mixture of uses. See that building in the background there behind the train? It's got commercial land use on the bottom, and on top, residential land uses. And when you combine those uses together in a small space, you can walk to a lot of spaces for a lot of trips that you normally would have to take a car to. And if you want to go further, you can jump on the train and you can go access to a lot of additional trips with additional transit-oriented development around stations further down the line. It really makes the transit attractive, and it really builds the community. In communities like this, there are many families that choose not to have a car because they don't need one, and that reduces congestion for everybody. And what we see especially with transit-oriented development in the West is that cities that are struggling with housing affordability are choosing to make an investment, not just in the transit, but if you are building a new transit line that increases people's property value, you want to be able to keep the residents and the businesses that were in that neighborhood in the neighborhood, and you can't price them out of it. And so you make investments in affordable housing, and you provide incentives for the businesses that are there to stay. And so it provides stability for the neighborhood. And that's more and more a very important characteristic of successful transit-oriented development. If you look at these slides, hopefully you're seeing good planning and good design, as well as some very attractive features, like wider sidewalks, shade with street trees, that make this a really nice place to live. And that comes with a cost. And how do we pay for it? Well, I want to spend the next few slides talking about how that's done, but emphasizing that what we're doing in this bill is not a new tax. It is not raising an existing tax, and that's why this tool has been so popular around the country to capture the value of these new transit investments. And we are making these transit investments here in Nevada, both in the north and in the south. You can see on this map, this is the master plan for the RTC of Southern Nevada's high-capacity transit lines. Note the line in red in the middle. It's red because it goes right by UNLV. It's on Maryland Parkway. The line, it's already under construction. The line in blue is Boulder Highway. The line in green is already under study. And we're looking to build these lines in key places in Southern Nevada. This is just a picture of the Maryland Parkway line with the dedicated transit lines. And you can see the transit stations are much nicer, bigger, well-lit, and safer than what you'd typically see in your grandfather's bus stop. Here is the project on Boulder Highway that's already under construction. Center running rapid transit lines in the median of Boulder Highway. Up north, you have the Lincoln Line going from Sparks to Reno. And you might have seen this vehicle at Transportation Day on the second day of the legislature. It was here. This is the Rapid Line along Virginia Street at McCarran Boulevard. The federal government has paid for the majority of these investments. And it's increased property values along the way. That's what we're going to do to help pay for this, is to capture the value of these transportation arteries. All of a sudden, after these are built, we're seeing a lot more people go by the property. And that makes an increased demand for the property for development and increases the value of the property. Now, this is a station in Salt Lake City. This is the red line, the first light rail line that they built. And this is what typical neighborhood of the station look like? Not a whole lot of development there. But after the light rail line was built, there was a demand for, this is the same picture just a few years later, on the same station. And now you see how we're going to pay for this, is that all of a sudden, we create a special zone around the transit line. It's fairly small, only goes out maybe a quarter to a half mile around the transit line, that's it. But where we have this new development coming in, we have scores of additional apartment buildings, we have dozens of new businesses, and they all pay an existing tax, a property tax. We're not increasing that. We're not doing a special assessment. We're not taking away any of the property tax that goes to any jurisdiction or any school district. We make them whole. But the growth, because of the new development in property tax, we can reinvest into these transit lines, and we can incentivize this development, this type of development. That's why it's been so successful across the country. It is not a new tax. We take a small portion of the growth in the property tax and we provide that as an incentive for development. Now, how this works, according to statute, we have a lot of experience using this tool. We call it tax increment financing. We've done it for decades. In the north and in the south, it's under existing statute, as you can see here, NRS 278C. But we can only use it in our changes to this bill in areas where the city and the county master plans say we can, which is only in the transit corridors where it makes sense, where there's already an existing amount of high development and congestion problems that need to be solved. But it also allows us to build the mixed-use types of development you see in the lower picture. That's along Maryland Parkway. In anticipation, we actually built before the project, but in anticipation and investment on Maryland Parkway of this transit system. This bill would also increase the threshold for affordable housing from 60% AMI to 120% AMI. And I think you might hear from some supporters from the affordable housing developing community that would talk about why they're in favor of that bill. It'll make it easier for them to build affordable housing. I want to emphasize, this is not a tax. It's not an increase in a tax. And we are holding harmless every jurisdiction that uses the property tax. We're taking just an increment of the growth to help incentivize the development. Developments like this one that you see on the picture here. We've been doing this for a very, very long time. This is the Mulaski Building in Symphony Park in downtown Las Vegas. Existing statute allows us to use these types of incentives, existing property tax incentives, to build the things you see on the list here as an enticement for developers to come in and develop. Flood control, overpasses, underpasses, water, sewer, and roadways. But do you see the transit station in this picture? There is a transit station in the middle of the road and on the side of the road. We weren't allowed to use any money or any incentives for that. The RTC of Southern Nevada had to build the whole thing. We are proposing to add to this bill some new eligible items that most other states in the country can use. We can't yet because they haven't been explicitly authorized in statute. This is an affordable housing unit in Seattle, Washington, right next to one of their light rail lines. As part of this bill, we'd be able to enable affordable housing, mixed use, transit-oriented development, multifamily housing, and transportation, like fixed guideway, high-capacity transit you see here, and the transportation elements like wider sidewalks. Some new developments in Las Vegas are now using this tool, this tax increment financing tool. This is a new 5-story, 104-unit development in the historic West Side called Share West Side. It's already received $1.5 million in incentive to build this. And we're going to see some increases in value and economic activity because of this development. That will result in the property tax going up a little bit. We'll be able to repay back those incentives with that tax increment. Some of you will recognize the Desert Pines Golf Course north of Interstate 11 and south of Bonanza Road here in the city of Las Vegas. The city of Las Vegas is working with the developer to redevelop that golf course with mixed use, affordable housing, and these developments that you see here represented on this page. Now, where could this occur? There's a close relationship between the universities as part of the existing statute. that reflects this. We built part of Nevada State College in Henderson with tax increment financing. And a number of corridors, all in many places throughout the state, would be eligible for this. But each local government would have to pass an ordinance where this could occur. It's all part of a public process. And I wanted to show some pictures of Ely, Nevada for a certain senator on this panel, because this tool is appropriate for large metro areas, or it's also appropriate for small towns with important activity centers that may want to take advantage of the way to pay for some of the transportation improvements that might be needed. It's a very important tool that could be used all throughout the state. Finally, this bill provides housing choice and affordability, provides transportation choice and affordability, and creates great places with high-quality development, and it doesn't involve a tax increase. That's why it's been so popular in other states, and we think you should seriously consider it. Those are all of my pretty pictures that I brought. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to show them to you.
Thank you, Chair. Seth Floyd for the record. I think Jacob covered it pretty well. One thing I did want to mention, and just to give you a why is this urgent? Why are we looking to do this now? One thing I failed to mention when I was talking about our 2050 master plan and the fact that we have to accommodate additional growth, we are predicting about 300,000 more residents to move into just the city of Las Vegas alone between now and 2050. And we're currently in the first 4 years of our master plan, we're on target to hit that number, and we have to find somewhere for those folks to live, work, and play. And so we are looking for these additional tools to create the types of neighborhoods that Jacob described along our transit corridor. So that's the why of this bill. I'm happy to go through the sections and also happy to answer any questions you have.
I think we can probably jump into questions, although I believe some members will have specific questions as to some of the sections here. With that, would open up for questions. Senator Ellison, please.
Going to be good and be quiet. Never happens. Question is, the tax incentive that's on the bill, that what it does basically is the tax is still there, but it just freezes any increase above that. Is that it? There's got to be some kind of revenue that's created. The only thing that could be created is from the existing taxes froze, and anything that increases above that pays the debt. Is that not right, or am I wrong?
For the record, Jacob Snow. If I could direct your attention to this slide, it's kind of in the weeds, but if I could have you focus on the blue there where it says the existing tax base. That's the existing property tax at a level that once you start one of these new tax increment finance areas would be frozen in place at the level. That's why that blue bar is constant. It does, it doesn't go down. We don't take any away from that existing tax base, and that's the existing tax base that goes to the municipalities, goes to the school districts. That's how we hold them harmless. And once we establish one of these new tax increment finance areas and we see the increase in the property value and the development coming in, if I could direct your attention to the bright pink, the incremental areas. That's why we call this tax increment financing. We're getting a growth in the property tax because there's a bunch of new development. There's increase in property value. And we capture, this is a tool called value capture. We've made a significant tax investment, the public's taxes in these transit lines that we're building. Instead of passing along that value to somebody else, we're capturing some of the value of our investment, a small amount, so that we can reinvest it into the corridor and we can pay for additional enhancements to the transit line, or for, in this case, with this bill, affordable housing, multifamily housing, and commercial opportunities as part of mixed-use development along the transit line. And those are that source of revenue from the property tax increases, that's captured, and it is spent, it's only captured from the district around the transit line, and it is spent in the district along the transit line.
Well, thank you. And I've been there and I've seen these and I've seen how they worked. The biggest problem I had was what about the city for the infrastructure for down the road? So is there a little bit of cap that goes back in there for the infrastructure cost? That's road maintenance, that's sidewalks that you're talking about, anything that the city usually does. Is there a mechanism in this here to help pay for that? Because as it goes up and it builds out, the debt ratio still climb up for the cost of the city or the county or wherever it's gonna be. There's gotta be some kind of mechanism for the city to pay for that debt ratio, because that tax froze, the infrastructure still gets older and it still needs to be maintained. And maybe you can hit on that, and I appreciate it, thank you.
For the record, Jacob Snow, I appreciate that question. Thank you for that question, because now I want to focus on the green portion of the slide. You set me up really well, Senator. I appreciate that. A rising tide floats all boats. And you make an investment with the transit, you attract a lot of development. This tax increment area only lasts for up to a maximum of 30 years. Then after it's over, we have a much higher property tax base already built in. And you can see the difference between the high amounts from the green versus the blue. And that additional property tax revenue doesn't have to be captured anymore for the transit or for the affordable housing, but it all will flow back to the local governments and the school district in a significantly larger amount than they would have had otherwise. And that's how they can pay for maintaining this infrastructure and also continuing to improve it in the future.
Senator Grazzer, do you have any questions? I do. Please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. So I'm just trying to understand Section 1, subsection 2, sub A, where the incomes of all the residents of the project for affordable housing are averaged. The housing would be affordable on average for a family with a total gross income that does not exceed, currently it says 60% of the median gross income for the county, and you're raising it to 120%. So can you, using maybe just some general numbers, can you sort of lay that out for me, please, so I can better understand that?
Seth Floyd for the record. Yeah, I think I can do that. So what that section of the bill does, and let me set this up by kind of explaining how narrowly tailored that part of the bill is. So under current statute, the city is authorized to do several different affordable housing incentives. One of those is we can waive or reduce impact fees or building permit fees that are part of an enterprise fund for housing that, as you just read, meets the definition of 60% area median income. What this would do is allow us to apply that waiver or that building permit fee reduction to housing that is now at a 120% threshold. And those thresholds are defined in NRS 278. So Tier 1 housing is 30 to 60%, Tier 2 is 60 to 90%, or 60 to 80%, Tier 3 is 80 to 120%. So, and we're not tinkering with that. All we're doing is asking that we be able to provide a building permit fee waiver or reduction to a project that has housing that averages out at 120% AMI.
Follow-up, thank you. Okay, can you use some numbers for a particular county so that we can see what it would look like with real numbers? You can use any county you want. I'm just trying to see what that would look like with real numbers. Thank you.
Seth Floyd for the record. I'm trying to remember what our current, they get updated regularly. I think, so we have Marco Vallada on our team, who I think is feverishly looking for what the area median income for Clark County currently is right now.
And you can say it's just an approximation too, just for example purposes. Thank you.
So AMI for, Seth Floyd for the record, AMI for Clark County, 120% would be a household income of about $70,000. For a family of four? For a family of four.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we'll go to Senator Daley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a couple of, I hope, easy questions for you. So we say that you can use the tax increment for affordable housing, and you reference a definition. But when you get to multifamily housing, or I believe it's in Section 10, it just mentions residential. Is there any requirement on, is it just market rate, or is that intended to be, have an affordable element as well, or is there nothing there as far as that goes?
So Seth Floyd for the record. So we added several definitions, as you noted, to 278C, one of which is affordable housing, but there are some other ones as well. So the multifamily housing is not specifically limited only to affordable housing. We also added high-capacity transit, transit-oriented development, transportation project to that as well. So in the pictures that Jacob showed from some other cities, particularly Salt Lake, this is a tool that could be used for a variety of projects, including affordable housing projects, but not exclusively for affordable housing projects.
Right, because in your Section 10, where you talk about transit-oriented development, a mix of integrated residential or commercial use types. So that's not going to have the affordable housing, even though you're raising the threshold on what would qualify for that. I'm not sure, some of the people come up and hopefully be in support, but there's no tag on that for the 60 to 120 and to try to get in that income level for people to get into that on that residential or multifamily. There's nothing there for that.
For the record, Jacob Snow, some of the pictures I showed you were of affordable housing developments, but some of them were what we call mixed income transit-oriented developments. And that's been surprisingly successful across the country, where as part of a development for, say, a new apartment or condominium complex, the developer will say, I'm going to require that 25% of these units be for 60% AMI. And I'm going to require that another 25% are going to be for 90% AMI. And another percent might be for a higher AMI. And then they can say, I'm going to have X amount of units that are market rate housing. And that way they blend a lot of people of different income strata, and it's been extremely well received and very successful for those types of developments.
And I understand how you do that, and it's not up on the developer that does that. It's sometimes the city council or the county commission would say, we'd really like to see, and then they agreed, the great developer, he's so nice, he wanted to take care of these people. But we know how that works, right, from the counties and the cities. I know when you raise that level, and so I'm just trying to figure out, how do you fill that gap, right? Because if you go into low-income housing, that's all subsidized by the federal government. They say, hey, we're really down here. These are people that are at the lowest levels. And the developer says, that's all the rent I'm going to charge. But then they're being subsidized up to market rate from the federal government. When you have affordable and attainable and all of these different things that we've come up with for the different levels. So when you raise it from 60 to the 120, it just means that you can charge more rent for people that fit into those areas, but it's still a little bit less than market rate. How are we dealing with that delta? Otherwise, the developers don't want to build it if they can't get the market rate to make their project pencil. So what's the mechanism to fill that delta when you say, hey, so many units, or this is going to be, you're affordable, and we're going to rent it to people that only make between 60 and 120%. Now they qualify. They're going to charge a rent that's lower than market, but they're not going to build it if they can't get market. What's the mechanism to fill that delta?
Seth Floyd for the record. I think this bill is a very targeted tool for incentivizing certain types of development close to transit. It is not the only tool available. The city utilizes a lot, you mentioned some of them. I mean, the very low-income housing is almost entirely subsidized. We have a few of those projects going on right now. Your really 60 to 120% is where the help, from what I understand in the affordable housing, some of those folks are here and can talk to this directly, but what we hear is that is some of the toughest to finance because you're stacking different capital to try and make this work. As you said, you've got some at 60%, some at 80, some at 120%. So this is just one of several tools that we expect those developers to utilize. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get the very low affordable housing or you're only going to get 120%. It's just expanding that menu of options that developers can use to get an incentive. And I don't think this alone, and we're not here to say this is the sole solution to affordable housing in Las Vegas. We know it's a big issue. We've got a lot of units we need to build, but it's another tool in our toolkit that we can use and will hopefully fill that financing gap that we hear about.
Final question. And I think I understand. I was just asking the question to see if part of that was in this tax increment. Don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to the proposal and some of the stuff. And I know the tax increment is going to get used for infrastructure and then people are going to build their development. But they receive the incentive, so then they've got the rest of the requirements that they have to do in the district according to these things, depending on what they're doing. So they have to come up with other mechanisms to fund their affordable versus low income versus that housing and all of the other tools that are out there for them to do that. It's an interesting problem and not easily solved. And anyway, I'll leave it at that. But this doesn't really anticipate being the mechanism to bridge that.
Seth Floyd for the record. No, I don't think it's the only mechanism to bridge that. No, I think it requires that. I mean, one of the things we've been trying to do the last several sessions is, in fact, we just adopted sort of an omnibus affordable housing bill a few years ago where we adopted every single incentive that the legislature authorizes us to utilize. And not all of them get used all the time, but it's helpful to have all of those tools available to try to incentivize what we need at that time.
Thank you for that, Senator Daley. And I think I'll echo a little bit of the conversation that's already been ongoing. I think stated differently from some of the questions, we could completely remove affordable housing from this conversation, and the bill would still achieve a lot of what the presentation focused on, which is transit. We understand that with transit, there comes a lot of exciting opportunities to maybe draw in some excitement from developers, builders, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the confusion was because we see affordable housing in there, it gets a lot of people excited in one way, but there's also a lot of conversations that have absolutely nothing to do with that. We're just hoping that potentially we go in that direction. I think maybe we could continue to have some of the conversations offline with the 60 to 120. I think there may be additional questions that we can kind of dissect there and maybe play a little bit with the numbers a little bit more. But with that, I think we don't have any additional questions. I appreciate the presentation. I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 28, if we could please join us, either Carson City or Las Vegas. All right, I don't see anybody in Las Vegas, but I do see a bunch of folk here in Carson City. Whoever wishes to go first.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Nick Ciccone for the record. NIC, CICC, O&E, representing the city of Reno. I'll just go on record as saying we have two redevelopment agencies which are authorized by NRS 279, so I don't think we would necessarily use the tax increment financing tool. That being said, we think that the building fee waivers and the enterprise fund waivers have been an excellent tool for the city of Reno. So far, we've waived about $12 million in various fees for affordable housing development, which has resulted in about 2,100 units being built in the city of Reno proper. This has been an incredibly important tool for that 60% AMI, and we think that it would be excellent if we could help with the lasagna of financing, if you will, when it comes to affordable housing projects to fill that gap and get them the extra mile, since some of these projects will not qualify for the low-income housing tax credit, among other pieces of that gap financing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. Please.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Senate Government Affairs Committee. My name is Wesley Harper. I am the Director of Government Affairs for the City of North Las Vegas. We are certainly in support of this legislation, and we appreciate the sponsors, City of Las Vegas, bringing this forward. I have personally seen some of the power of tax increment financing. 2023, I was in Salt Lake City. I was there when the mayor gave the State of the City address. She gave the address in an area of the city called the Granary District, which was financed in significant part through tax increment financing. And Granary was one of Salt Lake City's oldest neighborhoods with a history of commercial and industrial uses. Today, it's now one of Salt Lake City's most vibrant neighborhoods. It's a makerspace of artists, breweries, restaurants, businesses of all shapes and sizes. It is truly impressive. This is a powerful tool, and it is one more way that we can make the city the best possible for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Chair Flores, great to be in your committee this afternoon. Mackenzie Warren Kay with Brownstein, WARRENKAY, on behalf of Ovation Development and also the Nevada Multifamily Alliance. I don't like to admit this in public, but I was born in Salt Lake City and moved here when I was 2, so appreciate the shout out. Just for quick context on who these groups are, Ovation's been building apartments since 1984. They have 53 apartment communities that consist of more than 13,000 units across the Vegas Valley. Nevada Multifamily Alliance, also known as NMFA, consists of 6 apartment builders that have built, own, and manage 20,000 units. And Senate Bill 28 is going to give Ovation and NMFA just that additional tool. We know that we need more housing, and increasing the income thresholds. Senator Daley, particularly appreciate your question here because there is a missing middle. So moving this number from 60 to 120 does a tremendous amount of good. I can just say that Ovation and our other developer friends aren't building anything in those AMI levels above the 60% because the financing it doesn't work. They don't pencil. There's just no funding when you're up above that 60 level. So the missing middle we know is part of the housing ecosystem that we have to start attacking. TIFs, another great way to expand financing. We have a lot of our mixed income developers that have utilized a TIF, and we think it's just another great thing to add into the array. We applaud the city for expanding this. Thank you, Chair, for hearing it, and we urge your support on the bill. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Haven't used these microphones before. Hi, Chair Flores and members of the committee. Kanani Espinoza with the Real Law Group on behalf of Nevada Hand today, our state's largest nonprofit affordable housing developer. We appreciate the city for bringing this legislation forward. We know that this is another tool in the toolbox. Currently, Nevada Hand has 1,700 units under construction through gap financing, through Home Means Nevada, and many other tools throughout the state. So we appreciate the state's ability to raise from 60 to 120. It does increase that capacity to get that missing middle units for affordable housing, but also just fits within the NRS financing of affordable housing. Thank you.
Hi, Chair Flores and members of the committee. My name is Demi Falcon, and for the record, it's DEMI-FALCON, speaking on behalf of the RTC of Southern Nevada in support of SB 28. So as Nevada grows, RTC has worked to ensure attainable housing, smart land use, and public transit infrastructure being developed together. And this bill will encourage greater investment along key RTC transit corridors like Maryland Parkway and Boulder Highway, which the city had mentioned earlier in its presentation. And by broadening TIF eligibility to support transit-oriented development and high-capacity transit, this bill will provide creative financing solutions for key projects such as potential and future transit investments along Charleston Boulevard as well. So we appreciate this bill's alignment with RTC's goals for promoting transit-friendly investments and supporting economic development as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity to testify in support.
Thank you. Please.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Tommy Ferraro on behalf of Southern Nevada Home Builders Association. We support SB 28, which allows transit-oriented development to access tax increment financing in certain redevelopment areas. Additionally, raising the threshold for enterprise fee waivers on affordable housing would benefit builders who rely on these programs. We respectfully urge your support for this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, David Cherry, Government Affairs Manager for the City of Henderson. SB 28 provides another tool to finance affordable units and to encourage development in areas that are hubs for public transit. The city appreciates the flexibility that SB 28 offers to local governments, including the option to offer incentives such as reduced fees. We support the change from 60% AMI to 120% AMI and below for the purposes of affordable housing projects. These ranges align more closely with Henderson's median income and the earnings of many public employees such as teachers, nurses, and public safety workers such as police and firefighters. SB 28 supports beneficial goals that are part of our Henderson Strong Comprehensive Plan related to affordable housing and enhancing financing tools, including for those used for transit-oriented development. For these reasons, we urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Flores, and committee members. My name is Cassidy Wilson, CASSIDY-WILSON with McDonald Corano, and today I am representing the Builders Association of Northern Nevada. We are in support of SB 28 and want to thank the committee and stakeholders for bringing the bill forward to help incentivize and expedite certain housing projects throughout our state. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Nick Schneider, Director of Government Affairs for the Vegas Chamber. For the sake of brevity, I'll go ahead and say I echo many of the comments of my colleagues here, specifically the increased access to transportation for Nevada's workers, as well as in Section 1, the increased AMI to capture a broader portion of our population who need attainable housing. Thank you.
And thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to testify in support? Seeing none in Carson City or Las Vegas, BPS, do we have anyone wishing to join us in support of Senate Bill 28 over the phone?
You would like to testify in support of SB 28, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. If you have recently just joined us and would like to testify in support of SB 28, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 28 to please come forward. Seeing no one in Las Vegas or Carson City, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone in opposition to Senate Bill 28?
If you would like to testify in opposition of SB 28, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 051, please press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please continue.
I am here to oppose Bill SB 28. It pretends to promote affordable housing and transportation. Well, let's call it what it really is. Another step towards government overreach, crony capitalism, and a slow erosion of our freedoms.
And I apologize for interrupting
Centralized planning.
but I think we missed your name. If I could have you just state your name for the record.
No, Barry Johnston, sorry.
Please
Las
continue.
Vegas. Let's call this what it is. Centralized planning straight out of a dystopian nightmare. This bill is right directly from the playbook of Agenda 21, the World Economic Forum, and 15-minute city agendas, with a war on private property and personal transportation, mixing this with the mass surveillance that's happening with NDOT and Metro right now, as well as the city of Las Vegas, who right now, looking at the data, city of Las Vegas tracked 210,000 people this month. So they're probably in the hundreds of thousands of people that they're tracking all your movements. SB 28 does not promote affordability. It promotes control by doubling the income threshold of so-called affordable housing from 60 to 120. This bill forces taxpayers to subsidize housing for people who are not in poverty. Instead, it's a cash grab for developers to get sweetheart deals while everyday Nevada's pay the price, but that's pay for play Nevada with you guys, right? The bill forces the city to reduce fees for politically connected developers while homeowners of small business get no tax relief, no benefits, and no say in how our community is shaped. This isn't housing reform, it's a developer slush fund. Trying to boot the bill expands government-run transit and rail projects, which means more wasted tax dollars with failed, never-ending transportation boondoggles like the Las Vegas monorail. We've seen this before. We spent $650 million on the monorail failure that never worked. RTC bus lane fiascos wasted millions on unused transit lanes. Now they're saying they're doubling down on high-capacity transit and fixed skyways with code words for forcing people out of the cars into government-controlled transportation grids. This is exactly what a 15-minute city zoning starts. Slowly removing the ability to own and use our cars, forcing people into state-controlled transit, and restricting the moment based on arbitrary climate goals. The language in this bill is eerily familiar. It mirrors the UN Agenda 21 and the economic forums "you will own nothing and be happy" philosophy. The end game, 15-minute cities, where the bureaucrats and city planners dictate where you live, where you work, how far you can travel, whether you can even own a car. It's not about housing and transportation, it's about control. Once they have control of our zoning, housing,
Mr. Johnson, we have.
use this to dictate every aspect of our daily life.
All right, sir. Thank you. We have gone above and beyond the 2-minute limit, but if there is additional remarks you would like to submit to the committee, you can email those to us, and we can make sure that your opposition has an opportunity to get the full breadth of your concerns for the committee to review. Thank you, sir.
Buy them a plane ticket for Chicago or New York or Boston. We don't put up with this in Nevada. This is insane. You guys have to stop this.
All right. Thank you for joining us, sir. BPS, next caller, please.
Yeah, hello, my name is, hello, Senator Chair. This is Al Rojas from Assembly District 12. You know, I'm partially opposed to this. I just want to bring to the attention that I saw, I'm on telephone, and I saw part of the presentation. And, you know, one of the problems we have here with the high cost of transportation is that we have a lot of accidents. And if you look at the statistics, they show that when you have a high density of people and the speed limits are at 45 miles per hour, which they have been set 40 years, maybe 30 or 40 years ago, especially in areas which is an area that you live in, Nellis, Lamb, Lake Mead, Sahara, Charleston. That's what's driving up the prices of our transportation. So I really question the forethought of having this transit system with cars going 45 miles per hour, where if you talk to most of the people in traffic control, they don't ticket anybody unless they're going 51 or 52 or 55. And the statistics show that if you're driving at that speed and you have pedestrians on the road, the accidents just go through the roof. With all these trains and people getting off, it's going to make things worse. So I think we really got to look at reducing the speed limits in addition to doing all this stuff that you guys are doing. And I really think that the answer for low cost, you guys are talking about lowering the cost of housing, but in some areas the property values are going up. So there's a conflict there. Honestly, we gotta have BLM release more land, and, you know, Jackie Rosen and Cortez and all these state Congress people should be really the ones that should be addressing this. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for your time, and it's great to see you over, Senator Flores. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rojas. BPS, well, before we go to the next caller, assuming there is one, I just want to remind those of you calling in opposition, support, or neutral, if you can speak to the language of the bill itself. I understand that there are 1,000 other ways to engage in conversations regarding affordable housing and conversations of transit, but if you could please focus on the bill itself, it would help us focus on the bill language itself. BPS, next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 28, please.
Chair, you have no more callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
BPS, we'll stay on the phone. Is there anyone wishing to testify in the neutral position to Senate Bill 28?
If you would like to testify neutral on SB 28, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair. This is Dora Martinez representing the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition. We are testifying in neutral because we have people who are part of our coalition who didn't get disabled. They were not born disabled, but they obtained it later in life, and they told me that their fixed income, monthly income, is not negotiable, and they were saying that 60% AMI is a bit too high for seniors of the state to afford these affordable housing. And also, I sincerely hope that, I just came off another meeting, and I sincerely hope that since HUD, the Housing Authority, is one of the biggest landlord in the state, that this affordable housing, and I'm putting my hand in quote, can accept Section 8, because a lot of people are going to be on those things who are baby boomers and people who obtained disability at their job, and there are U.S. citizens. So thank you, Chair, and good afternoon to all of you. Thank you so much for all you do.
And thank you for joining us. But if I understand you correctly, your concern was the 60% medium income requirement that we have now, that's not enough. So it going to 120 would be even more problematic, correct? Oh, we may have lost her. But I think.
No, you haven't, sir. Sorry, Chair Flores, I'm blind and I was trying to listen for my star six, so my apologies.
No worries.
Yes, so right now they're struggling because of the inflation, groceries, and then they're gonna lose their car because of insurance and gas. So if it is going to be affordable, let's make it affordable. Do 30 and then go up from there. Meet where they are, because they have been worked hard and they put in their their money to enjoy it later in life. Thank you, sir.
Fair enough. Thank
now.
you.
Thank you.
And I only made the point because it is completely okay for you to be in opposition. The threshold is an issue, and I respectfully, I think you're just trying to be nice, and I appreciate that. But it's completely okay. You can be in opposition, just you're concerned about the 60% going up to 120. And I think the record can reflect that accordingly. Thank you for calling. We appreciate you joining us today. Is there anybody wishing to join us in the neutral position over the phone, please?
Chair, you have no callers wishing to testify at this time.
Thank you. And I don't believe we have anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position, Carson City or Las Vegas. Seeing no one stepping forward. Any closing remarks for Senate Bill 28?
Chair Flores, Chair Flores, members of the committee, again, Randy Robinson, Director of Government Affairs for the City of Las Vegas. Thank you again for the opportunity to present the bill. Just a couple of things on the AMI provision. Let me be clear, we're not going from 60 to 120. It would be from 0 to 120. We're raising that upper threshold. As we talked with folks, advocates within the community, their common concern or comment was there's a lack of supply across the spectrum. And there are a lot of programs that deal with lower income, lower AMIs. This one would help us, as you heard some of them term it, the missing middle, which is another place where there's a lack of supply. But in some, Chair and committee members, Vegas has changed a lot over the last 30 years, going to change a lot over the next 30 years. We're in the city of Las Vegas is in the unique position of being landlocked. We don't have room to grow out. So whereas other folks may benefit from release of federal lands, for instance, we won't because we're landlocked. We can't grow out. So this is a strategy that's been used successfully in other cities across the country to help them grow up. And we think it's a tool that will help us into our future. So again, thank you for the presentation.
I think your mic turned off there at the very end. You're good, though, no worries. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the presentation. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 28. Next, we have Senate Bill 273. Mr. McCann will be presenting that bill. Members, we do have an amendment that is considered friendly that will be presented alongside of Mr. McCann. Just as a way of history, before we get into the bill presentation, this bill is a repeat from last session. For those of you who were here, you may remember it. There is a series of bills that were moving between the Assembly and Senate that dealt with personally identifiable information, that dealt with who could and in what scenarios have some of that information protected. And in that scramble, I inadvertently moved a couple of bills and held on to other ones, thinking that that was the agreement amongst all those bills, and I was incorrect. So we are here now giving it a second bite at the apple. And I was working with Mr. McCann slightly on this. And I notified him that because our vice chair was not here today, that if he could please proceed with the presentation. And he said, absolutely, I got this. And then I know we will also have our firefighters taking care of business. So with that, I'd like to open up the hearing on Senate Bill 273. Welcome.
I got a hose dragger sitting next to me. Sorry. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and staff. Always remember the staff. For the record, my name is Rick McCann with losing my voice. Senator Ellison, I know you don't have a problem with the fact that I've lost my voice. I'm here today representing the Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers and the Nevada Law Enforcement Coalition, as well as the Las Vegas Metro Police Protective Association for Civilian Employees, here to present SB 273. Existing law permits certain classifications of persons to seek the removal of their personal information, such as their home address of the spouse or children, phone numbers, email addresses, etc., from the records of certain county and state agencies where they are maybe posted. Among those classifications included in these existing laws are persons whose jobs involve interaction with the public and subject them to potential harm by virtue of their job duties, such as judges, current and retired law enforcement officers, district attorneys, prosecutors, public defenders, registrars of voters, and child welfare service workers, among others. SB 273 seeks to include civilian employees who provide support services to a law enforcement agency, and such as crime scene investigators. These persons can also be subject to potential harm from bad guys as a result of the performance of their duties. Section 1 of the bill includes civilian law enforcement employees in records maintained by the county recorders. Section 2 deals with the same thing, except records maintained by the county assessors. Section 3, same thing, except it deals with records of the Secretary of State. Section 4, same thing, deals with the records maintained by the Department of Motor Vehicles. Civilian and law enforcement employees are vital to the services provided by law enforcement to our communities, and they need to be protected against a simple click of the button on our county and state websites that can identify their home addresses, spouses, and children, just as many other persons are protected under current state law. For these reasons, we ask that you support SB 273. Thank you for the privilege of your time.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. Todd Inglesby, President of Professional Firefighters Nevada. We have proposed a friendly amendment. The amendment would be adding the term firefighters, which would address specific needs related to the duties and benefits firefighters as an employee of the state or a political subdivision of the state designated by his or her employer who interacts with the public or performs tasks related to prevention, detection, investigation, enforcement of violation of laws, ordinance, and codes regulating public nuisances, public health, safety, and welfare. Those changes are in the amendment. I can go through each one of them. Basically, it's adding firefighter and the definition per NRS. Do you want me to go through every single section on there? Or would the committee have a preference?
No, I think Mr. McCann hit exactly where we would be inserting that particular amendment, unless members have any specific requests that we walk through those sections again. Seeing none. Mr. McCann, would you mind, for the purposes of just not alarming too many folk, how the process now works presently if you want to take advantage of this? In other words, it's not an automatic trigger, just so that, because I know some folk had brought up concerns about support services could be so incredibly broad, but can you just walk folk through a scenario where an individual provides support services, if they wanted to take advantage of this, how that would work?
Yes, Rick McCann for the record. Similar to what is stated in the bill, and for everyone else who is categorized within the bill, they would simply file a petition with the court and make that request. There are certain information that the court would request as to why they want to do it. It's no different. Everybody else who's been provided this privilege and this right at this point, it would be the same way that these folks would have to take care of it as well.
Perfect. And Mr. McCann, just one last thing. Could you just walk folk through how support services would prove that they in fact are support services? An example, yeah. When they file that they in fact fall under that category.
Rick McCann for the record, I believe, have not done it myself, I believe that they're going to be providing information perhaps under oath or an affidavit that would set forth what their job description is, who they work for, things of that nature, if that answers your question, sir.
Please, and these were questions that we were previously brought up and wanted to make sure we clarified them. And it would have been something that we would have been addressing on the other side of it. Senator Daley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my only question I wrote down here was, what happened in this last session? And now we found out that the chair killed it. An accident maybe, but he still did it.
Rick McCann for the record, I'll take the hit on that one. I messed up by not following up toward the end of the session when it was going to be combined with an assembly bill that had many other features similar to ours. It was supposed to be combined. We testified in favor of that combination, and unfortunately I didn't follow up in time to make sure it got to the governor in time.
Let me, correct the record that Rick McCann killed it, so.
For the sake of clarity, we all wanted to kill Senator Daley's bills, plural, and that just happened to be one of them. Is that what it was? Members, any questions, please? Senator Ellison.
And has a loud voice. I never heard of that. Sir, when I read this bill, first thing I thought was there's too much information out there on public for the families, for anything. You've had death threats, probably I have, when I was a county commissioner in here, and I give them my address. I said, just don't bring a knife to a gunfight. But the problem we got is there's too much dang information out there on people, and I don't know what we can do to tighten this rope up, but it's ridiculous. And do we need to protect our officers and our firemen and ambulance drivers and everything else out there? We need to. But I think it needs to go beyond this point. I tell you, it's got to the point where people have too much information on. And now look, somebody can steal your house just by the information they get from the title companies. So, I mean, that's just one, how much information is out there that has got so bad. So I don't know where the answer is, and maybe our chair could come up with an idea, but it's got to the point where it's out of control. There's too much information out there on people. And it's exciting and information, but not when it has in the private life of people.
Rick McCann for the record, thank you for co-sponsoring the bill, Senator.
I believe in this bill. I just think it needs to go a little bit more farther. I do. Thank you.
I think Senator Ellison wants to amend himself in there, along with all the folk of Elko. Is that what we're hearing?
I think that they need to protect him,
All right, thank you, members, for the indulgence of the play with words today. Anybody have any additional questions? Seeing none, I'd like to invite our sponsors to please sit back. And at this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 273, Carson City or Las Vegas, to please join us.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, members of the committee. My name is John Abel, representing the Las Vegas Police Protective Association. I'm gonna give a wholehearted ditto. And also to answer your question, there are services out there. I use one, it's called LEO Web Protect, that I pay for them to further scrub the internet of my information. So there are services that you have to pay for, but they are available. So I use this called LEO Web Protect. It's run by a lieutenant from the LAPD. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, whoever wishes to go next.
For the record, my name is Mark Ellis, M-A-R-C-E-L-L-I-S. I'm with Communication Workers of America and doing my best, Rick McCann. Me too, true that.
Hello.
Hello, Chair Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Susie Martinez, and I am the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Nevada State AFL-CIO, and we are in full support of Senate Bill 273. Everybody should be able to come home after their work and come home safely to their families, their cat, their dog, whatever makes them happy, right? But the main thing is come home safe.
Thank you for joining us. Please.
Thank you. My name is Brooke Brumfield, for the record, and I am the wife of a Washoe County firefighter. We have 2 young daughters. My husband often is going into tricky situations, whether he's the lead paramedic on shift, following the brave police, and these are really horrendous stories that I catch wind of. I would really appreciate the protection of this bill for me and my family.
Thank you.
Hello, Chair Flores, members of the committee. My name is Troyce, T-R-O-Y-C-E, Krumie, K-R-U-M-M-E. I'm the chairman of the Las Vegas Police Managers and Supervisors Association, and we represent all the supervisors. With Metro, we testified in support of this bill back in 2023, and our support continues today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 273? Seeing none, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 273, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon.
Please continue.
Oh, good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Clarence McCarthy, C-L-A-R-E-N-C-E, M-C, capital C-A-R-T-H-Y. I'm a union member and currently the health benefit rep for my branch local 709 letter carriers. And I strongly urge the committee to support Senate Bill 273.
Thank you for joining us. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Liz Sorensen. That's L-I-Z, last name S-O-R-E-N-S-O-N. I'm the president of the Nevada State AFL-CIO, and I urge the committee to please support SB 273. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for joining us. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Joseph Graham, J-O-S-E-P-H-G-R-A-H-A-M. I'm the chief steward for CWA 9413. I strongly urge the committee to support Senate Bill 273. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Next caller in support.
Hello, my name is DeAndre Carruthers. I am the president of the Las Vegas City Employees Association. I am here today to testify on behalf of my civilian support staff in the City of Las Vegas Department of Public Safety. The Department of Public Safety employs law enforcement support technicians, LESTs, who are responsible for processing bookings, bails, and releases of inmates. LESTs often interact with irate defendants or their family members, particularly at the bail window when retrieving personal belongings. These encounters can become tense and challenging. Additionally, I represent Animal Protection Services officers. As you all know, animal protection officers work closely with law enforcement to protect animals, sometimes removing pets from their owners' homes. As many of us are aware, people hold their pets in very high regard, and separating a pet from its owner can sometimes lead to highly volatile situations. I represent business licensing officers who work in the field to ensure that business licenses are valid and compliance with regulations. If business operating outside of parameters of this license, they may be fined or shut down, which can be cause the angry business owners to take matters into their own hands. The same applies to code enforcement officers who handle non-compliant homeowners, which also can escalate intense situations. If this bill is passed, it would not only protect individuals I mentioned today, but also safeguard the hardworking civilian workforce that collaborates closely with law enforcement on the front lines. Thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you. DeAndre Carruthers, that is spelled Deandre. Last name is spelled Caruthers, and I represent the Employees Association. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits of 625, please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Carol Albertson, Carrol Albertson. I'm a retired Metro Police civilian. My P number is 4195. I retired from Metro just recently in June, and I did serve 33 years in the public areas of our department, serving citizens as they came in to do reports. And at times they would not be pleasant to deal with. I supervised at one of our last substations at the Convention Center Area Command recently. I worked at our jail, PIO office, and records, and I was also a 911 operator for a short time. I've dealt with victims, suspects, and other agencies and arrestees. Per our policy, if it's requested, we had to give out our name and information, and I was not allowed to withhold that for any reason. Many times I was asked to come out to the lobby to speak to them, and a few times I refused. I did my best to find an officer to speak with them, but they're not always in the stations. All of our substations are manned by civilians, and we deal with the public on a constant basis. On occasion, we do have a light duty officer who are limited to performing their duty, so they cannot have interaction with irate citizens either. They would get angry and blame us for their circumstances, no matter what, and would get upset when I could not assist them. In the substations, we take criminal reports, and so a lot of times they come in for civil matters that we cannot help them with. We can only direct them somewhere else, and they would blame us for their problems. I was even videotaped leaving the substation one evening when I was leaving in my personal vehicle. So the person probably got my license plate number, and I was in fear. Most of us will not tell someone that we work for Metro because we're in fear of retaliation for any reason. We don't know their circumstances. In addition, I was married to a police officer, and his information was held confidential. I was not allowed to make mine confidential for some reason. I just heard from them that the spouse can, but I was an employee, and I was not allowed because I was a civilian employee. So I constantly lived in fear with my head on a swivel and anticipation that somebody could recognize me outside of work. So I strongly recommend that this committee to support Senate Bill 273. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support, please.
Caller with the last three digits of 805, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Again, caller with the last three digits of 805, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Thank you. Please continue.
Hi, yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tamura Jamison, Jamison, and I am a union member and a business agent for Teamsters Local 14. I strongly urge and encourage the committee to support Senate Bill 273. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 273.
Caller, please continue.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Jason Trafton. I've worked for the Las Vegas Metro Police Department as a civilian employee for 20 years. I'm currently assigned to the Real-Time Crime Center, where we use different types of technologies to fight crime. Some of those technologies are watching public safety cameras and being involved in investigations, where I end up testifying in court. The passing of SB 273 would be an added layer of protection for those who might want to cause ill will to me or my family. I strongly urge the committee to support Senate Bill 273. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 273.
My name for the record is Kim Renee, Renee, of South Astor, Nevada. I strongly urge the committee to support SB 273. Thank you, committee members.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 273.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Charmaine Goldstein. I have worked for LVMPD as a civilian employee for almost 14 years. I am currently assigned as an investigative specialist within the Southern Nevada Counterterrorism Center. Starting February through October of 2024, I was targeted by a member of the Las Vegas community. An unknown individual pretended to be me and wrote explicit letters to inmates located in jails and prisons within Nevada. In these letters, the suspect enticed a sexual relationship and invited the inmate to my residence. The suspect exposed my home address, my cell phone number, where I worked, how many kids I have, along with their ages, amongst other details. Some letters were rejected by the prisons and returned to me as an alleged sender, while other letters made it to the inmates serving sentences for murder, sexual offenses with minors, and other violent crimes. Then the suspect started to mass produce letters and send them to different prisons across the entire United States. I began receiving unsolicited phone calls and letters from inmates. Despite immediately reporting to LVMPD, the United States Postal Inspector Service, the Attorney General, the Inspector General, the FBI, along with every prison that received a letter, I still have no justice and no peace of mind. During this 10-month ordeal, I had to notify my children's schools, create safety plans, and we avoided our neighborhood parks. During the last year, I became so hyper-vigilant and withdrawn from my family and friends. I feared someone was constantly lurking by and watching our every move. Although the only truthful details in these letters were information that you could locate on the internet, my entire family has had to attend therapy while I'm still trying to heal from the trauma daily. I will never know just how many letters were received by inmates, nor will I ever know their release date. Due to this, I feel the constant need to watch over my back and my neighbors. Due to economic times and high inflation, moving is something that is unattainable. This suspect targeted me and a very vulnerable jail population, costing our inmates money and messing with their mental health as well. The current policies in place have failed us all. I please urge you to take the first step in securing our safety and protecting our privacy. I strongly urge you, the committee, to support Senate Bill 273. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 273.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Gabe Christensen, CHRISTENSON. I'm a member of SMART TD 1043 and the Nevada State Legislative Director. We urge you to support SB 273 to protect the people who protect us. Thank you. Bye.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 273.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Russ James, RUSSJAMES. After that previous testimony, I don't think anybody needs to add anything to that. I'm in support of Senate Bill 273, urge the committee to support it as well. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 273.
If you recently just joined us, we are currently in support of SB 273. To testify in support, please press star 9 now. Again, if you'd like to testify in support, please press star 9. Caller with the last 3 digits of 787, please press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Kmetz. I am the secretary over at the Las Vegas Police Protective Association for the Civilians. We strongly support the passing of Senate Bill 273. We feel it's very important. I do appreciate you taking the time to hear us out. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 273.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 089, please press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please continue.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and meeting members of the committee. For the record, my name is Jason Vargas, American Airlines, TWU Local 502, below the wing. And I am here today to strongly urge the committee to support Senate Bill 273. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 273.
Yeah, hi, my name is Al Rojas. I live in Assembly District 12, Senate District 21. I am in total support of this bill. We need to protect our first responders and their related family. We understand that mental health is an issue. That's why our great Sheriff Kevin McMail started this mental health center. It's being used, and it's sad to hear that the anguish that people's identities online are causing. So I support the bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 273.
Chair, you have no more callers wishing to support at this time.
Thank you. We'll stay on the phone. Is there anyone wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 273 over the phone?
If you would like to testify in opposition of 273, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in opposition of SB 273, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Is there anybody in opposition, Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, lastly, we'll move to neutral. Anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position, Carson City or Las Vegas? I suspect we're going to get a neutral phone call because I've never seen one of these bills without getting our famous neutral testimony from the folk that have to hide all the information. We put some folk to work. BPS, anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 273?
If you would like to testify neutral on SB 273, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers wishing to testify at this time.
I think that's the first time. Yeah, first time we didn't have somebody call in and explain how hard it is to do all this. Any closing remarks you may have?
No, it's after 5 o'clock.
All right, perfect. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 273. Members, I previously mentioned that we wanted to do a work session today for Senate Bill 96. Typically, I want to give everybody a heads up ahead of time. However, for the purposes of working with a short timeline and getting the bill over to the Assembly, we want to go ahead and move it now. Senate Bill 96, as you all remember, was Senator Krasner's bill, which designates January 27th as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. There are no amendments being introduced or anything like that. This is just for purposes of trying to align some stuff that's happening with some folk that will be visiting the Capitol here soon. Senator Daley, please.
Motion to do pass, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion to do pass Senate Bill 96. We have a second from Senator Ellison. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And we would obviously ask our Senator Krasner if she would carry the floor statement. Thank you. Senator Krasner will be carrying the floor statement. Lastly, on the agenda for today, members, is public comment. Is there anybody wishing to join us in Carson City or Las Vegas for public comment? Seeing none. BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone for public comment?
If you would like to participate in public comment, please press star 9 now.
Yeah, hello, Senator. This is Al Rojas. I live in Senate District 21, which neighbors your district, and I just wanted to bring your attention. You know, this speed limit in our areas are Nellis and Lamb. I spoke before, but I want to make it here as general comment. Lamb, Lake Mead, Charleston, Sahara. We're having too many accidents there. The accidents got to be the highest there in all of the valley. And the statistics show, the studies show that speed limit of 45 miles per hour in such a high density area where you have pedestrians, you have kids, you have people on electric bicycles, you have people on electric wheelchairs. The density's already gotten too high. Those speed limits were set 45 years ago with the 85% speed rule, which is totally outdated for us. We are not a rural town anymore. We're a high density area, and you see all the building that's going on. You see they want to put more people, they want to put a rail card. I'm asking you to take a look at that, and hopefully maybe you can be a voice for our community to bring that speed limit down to 35 miles per hour. We are already spending too much. We're the most expensive place to own a car because of the insurance, primarily the insurance. So bringing that speed limit down will bring our accidents down and our insurance down. Please look at that, bringing the speed limit from 45 to 35 down. Thank you very much, sir.
And thank you, Mr. Rojas, for joining us for public comment. Anybody else over the phone wishing to join us for public comment?
Chair, you have no more callers at this time.
All right, thank you. Members, I appreciate everybody's patience. I do want to give everybody a heads up. I anticipate Wednesday will probably be even longer today, just because we have more items on the agenda. So just so you can prepare for a long evening, and as we continue to move into those long evenings, maybe Senator Daley will offer everybody dinner. I don't know. We'll see. Thank you, members. This meeting's adjourned.
Don't invite hands.